All I gotta say is Reggie. Reggie. Bad Boys Ride or Die. An LA police captain gets linked to drug cartels. Wisecracking Miami cops Mike Lowry and Marcus Burnett embark on a dangerous mission to clear his name. Start with what I like. So it goes without saying that Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are magic together. They have not missed a beat in all four films. This movie just solidifies how good of a friendship they have, because when watching this, you could clearly tell that they're friends in real life. I do like how they switch the dynamic between Mike Lowry and Marcus Burnett. Usually Mike Lowry was the fearless one, and Marcus Burnett was like, no, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do this. Something happens in the beginning of the movie for both of them that kind of completely shifts their perspectives in their own lives. So I'm not going to spoil that. You got to see it. This film had some of the best cinematography and camera work I've ever seen in any Bad Boys film. Usually the other Bad Boys films, you know, they were good, but it wasn't particularly known for their camera work. This one is a huge switch. I also enjoyed the transitions between the different types of shots. A lot of you may have seen that Instagram post that Will Smith posted where they were showing how he does the first-person shooter camera work, but there's so much more to it. Like, they transition between first-person shooter to drone shots to... The cinematography and camera work was just second to none in this film. And to my delight, the action sequences approached Fast and Furious / John Wick levels. This is probably the most violent of the franchise. It's probably a toss-up between this and 2, because 2 was pretty violent, but had a lot more comedic violence, whereas this was just straight up brutal. Now, what I didn't like, usually when you watch a movie, it's in a 3-act structure. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. If you can power through Act 1, because Act 1 was kind of silly. And I'm not going to lie, I was sitting there like, oh man, I really wanted to like this movie. But once it gets into Act 2 and Act 3, you're going to be locked in. I promise you that. There were some parts on there that kind of dragged a little too long. There's a part with some juice and a part with the jelly bean. You'll understand exactly what it is when that scene starts. Could have done without that. Could have cut that a little shorter. I don't really have many gripes after the first act. You probably heard this everywhere, but Reggie is the MVP. And I will say, the character that plays Will Smith's son, he had a pretty badass scene in a jail. You'll know what I'm talking about when that scene starts. After watching this movie, and without spoiling it, I would love to see Will Smith's son team up with Reggie and watch how much damage they would cause. One more thing. So there's this giant meta reference to explain this in such a way that it doesn't spoil it. But I feel like the people that were still upset at Will Smith for the Oscar slap, I feel like they included this particular scene for a symbolic get back for Chris Rock. It's towards the end of the film. It's during the final action sequence. They symbolically give Will Smith what he deserved through somebody else and gave a symbolic get back for Chris Rock, if that makes any sense. It probably doesn't based on what I'm saying here, but when you see the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If I am rating this movie out of a 5, probably a 4, dare I say 4.5, and that's only because of the first third of the film that I wasn't really too happy with. It was funny, but they had this, that's one more thing. They had this one extra scene in the beginning that threw me off completely. It almost took me out of the movie. There's this one scene where you're mark my words, as an audience member, you're gonna see this scene happen, and you're gonna go, wait a minute, are they really doing this? Nah, are you? What? That was random. Why? Huh? Like, that's exactly what you're gonna say. And you're going to understand it if you are a person that has watched a lot of Marvel movies. There's something they included in a particular Marvel film in the beginning of this movie with Marcus Burnett, Martin's character, that's sort of life-changing. And yeah, it was pretty jarring. It took me out of the movie literally for a couple of minutes, and then I got pulled back in with, the greatness of the rest of the film. So, first third of the film, but once you get past that, what's the best way for me to give you an idea of where in the film it starts to pick up? Okay, for those of you that have watched the entire franchise, if you're familiar with John Sally's character from the previous Bad Boys films, the moment you see him, things are going to get real. That's the best way I could describe it. So, I would say from there on, the movie becomes unstoppable. There's a scene with a helicopter, there's a jail scene, there's a home invasion scene, there's an elevator scene that they somehow made look really cool with the cinematography. Let me know what you think of the movie.